From the banks of Dewey Lake, it's the Dewey Pod Monster.
All right, we're back, and this is your weekly podcast about consumption. We are the Dewey Pod Monster Podcast. My name is John. I'm the host of the Dewey Pod Monster Podcast, and with me this week is a man who's oozing swarthiness and importance. He is the authority on Michigan craft beer and also the host of the Dewey Pod Monster Podcast. Sean, how are you doing today?
John, how the hell are you? How about them Lions? What do you say?
They suck.
Grit.
So I don't know when this episode will come out. I haven't looked at the calendar recently, for better or worse, but we're recording this right after the first week of the NFL season. And I love that people are already posting things of their blowout loss to the Eagles this year and their disappointing loss to the Eagle, or blowout loss to the Eagles the year before, and then this year's loss, and saying, well, they got better. I'm like, you still fucking lost. Like, you didn't get better. At the end of the day, you still lost the same team twice. Stop trying to justify it.
When you look at a team at the end of the year, you always look at how badly they lost or how well they won. You don't ever look at the record. I just want to know points for and against. That's it.
No, it's all about who tried the hardest.
That's right. Whoever tried the hardest gets the biggest ribbon with an I tried medal.
Ribbon that says grit on it.
Grit.
What have you been up to this week aside from watching the Lions?
Oh, I haven't really watched anything of any substance. I watched that Derek Jeter thing that was on ESPN, which I think I've talked about in weeks past. The Captain. It's like a 7-part hour-long thing. So I've been watching that.
Jesus, that's
7 hours. It's like 40, probably 40-some minutes. But I mean, it's interesting. He's an interesting guy. I kind of never. He's like a Jordan to me. I don't want to get too much into this. He's like a Jordan to me, though, not necessarily the best that ever played, that the way Michael Jordan was, but I think more Derek Jeter was more of somebody that I didn't really appreciate his talent, I guess, while he was playing, because I hate the Yankees. And then when watching this thing, it was like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool. I mean, they won a bunch of titles. I think he won like 5 titles, 5 world championships, World Series. Anyways, like I said, I don't want to really get into that. I watched UFC 279. Was that the one that just passed? The Nate Diaz.
Yeah, I was distracted by football, so I didn't catch any of it.
That was on Saturday night. It's not Sunday. Football's a Sunday thing.
I actually prefer college football. My team wins occasionally.
Oh, my God. You're one of those guys.
I don't. Yeah, well, I like both, but anyway. So how was it?
It was actually a really entertaining card. I watched the prelims, watched the undercard, watched the pay-per-view card, caught the whole thing. That whole weight issue. So 279, Nate Diaz, it's his final fight on his contract. When this fight is over, he's going to move on to greener pastures or whatever. He's like 38 years old or something. So how much fight he has still left in him at a competitive level.
In other words, he's going to be commentating next to Joe Rogan and the other dudes who are retired that no longer fight, that call fights.
Well, I think he's going to fight Jake Paul. I think he's going to box Jake Paul next year at some point.
Yeah, that always works out well.
Well, I think he has a good shot. He has Nate Diaz is a funny dude because he has a boxing background, but he also is a black belt BJJ practitioner from the Gracie School. So he has all the tools, but his record is not great. But anyways, what's that? I have to look up his name. The guy that was supposed to be in the main event with him that weighed Khamzat Chimaev, that fucking guy. So
is that the guy with the big fucking chin beard thing?
Yeah, he's got the cleft palate scar.
Yeah.
He was supposed to fight Nick Diaz. Did they call him Nate Diaz before? It is Nate Diaz. Nick Diaz is the brother. He's supposed to fight Nate Diaz in the main event. He's supposed to just destroy him. He comes to the weigh-in. He weighs over. The limit was 170. They agreed at 170. He comes in. He weighs in at 178.5. Or maybe it was 177.5. He was over 7 pounds.
That's substantially over for those.
For that weight.
Yeah, you'll see like a pound sometimes, but that's a good chunk.
Yeah. He says that he couldn't make weight because the doctor warned him that it would be detrimental to his health. Like, he'd be admitted to a hospital because he had obviously had so much weight to lose. But there were all these things that said, like, a fan took a picture with him at some thing in Vegas where he was sitting in front of all these, like a table full of food, right? And he was cut at the weigh-in, so he was conditioned. Yeah. So they have to rearrange this whole card. So Nate Diaz fights Tony Ferguson, El Cuy Cuy.
It's a good song.
So that's that fight. They move the Khamzat Chimaev to fight. I can't remember all the people on the card now. But anyways, the fight that he's in is like a 2-minute thing. He just totally swarms the dude he's fighting. He beats him with a Darce choke, and Nate Diaz wins his fight with a guillotine on Tony Ferguson, which was, I'm sorry, did you want to watch it?
I'll forget by the time I get around to watching it. So,
but it was a good deal. Like, the whole card was pretty good, save that second to last fight. But it's just like, I don't know, dude. You signed a contract. They should have just, if they let him fight, they should have just done it so that he wouldn't get a loss on his record. That I wouldn't have paid him anything. He probably made like $2 million for the fight.
Oh yeah,
it's ridiculous. That's bullshit. I mean, how do you have to do that on purpose? There's no way that can be an accident.
With that kind of weight, I would think so. Like, that's not, like I said, you see guys that will come and weigh in like half a pound, maybe a pound over, something like that, and it's a big deal, but it's not that big a deal. Like, 7-8 pounds is a lot for a guy that's got to be that on his weight.
And there's no way that he would have lost. I think that Nate Diaz would have been reduced to nothing. I mean, it's just the styles are totally different, where Diaz is more of a striker, where he does have a grappling emphasis as well, but I feel like he keeps it on the feet as long as possible, because I think he just enjoys boxing more, you know? But yeah, so that was the big thing that I watched. I really had a nice kind of UFC sporgy on Saturday night, watching that whole thing starting from like 6 o'clock until 1 a.m. Did you just say
sporgy?
Yeah, sports orgy.
I like it.
And then watching all the football games on Sunday was fun. It's nice to get back to. I'm sure by week 4 or something, I'll be like, oh god, this is on all day. But it's that first week is always really a lot of fun. What were you up to? What did you consume?
So I finished Ted Lasso, which the second half of that season, like, I don't know if we had talked about this, or I had only said this to my wife, who like loves the show, about the downside with having a character that you really like because he's a genuinely nice guy, and all the characters that you do like on the show are nice people. The only thing you can do to push the plot forward is either make their life a living hell or turn them into pricks. Well, it's already doing that. They haven't started making his life a living hell yet, but they've definitely done a lot of like turning people that you should like into pricks for no real good fucking reason. So the second season of that show left quite a bit to be desired for me. I'll still go back to it. Like, whenever the third season comes out, I'll probably restart Apple for a month or whatever and get through it. But it's definitely not the Emmy caliber show. Like, I don't know what makes a show Emmy award winning caliber. I really don't. Like, me and awards, we don't see eye to eye. Movies like, or shows like Ted Lasso win. I'm like, yeah, but what about, I don't know, Monster Dog or something? That needs an award.
I'm sure that won awards.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think of Ted Lasso as being like the Will Smith happy rap of TV shows. Like, it just seems like, I don't know. I think we talked about this last episode. I can't get it. It's not, I'm not going to yuck your yum, but for me, it just seems too corny. I'm like, I'm kind of surprised that you're into it, to be honest.
I would go as far to say that I'm into it.
You're into
the first
it, baby.
Season's, oh yeah. I'm just yearning for more Lasso. No, it's not so much I'm into it. It's got, like I said, I do like Jason Sudeikis, so that was reason for me to watch it, I guess. And I kind of started right before football season. I think if I had started it after Sunday, I would have given it like 3 episodes and be like, well, this is on the back burner till February. Like, I'm not wasting time with this. Past that, I mean, I finished up Hard Knocks, like I'm assuming you did last week, and was kind of thoroughly underwhelmed with that, at least by the standards that show's kind of set for itself. I didn't think they really pushed the envelope all too much with this season, but I'm dumb. I'll keep watching if they keep giving it to me. I'm already waiting for the mid-season one with the Cardinals, I think it is, that they're doing.
How do you think they could change it to make it more of what you're looking for?
One would be to pick a team that's interesting. So you pick a team that doesn't that has players that you care about. Two would be remove Jared Goff, even though he's barely in it. Remove Jared Goff. And three, they didn't really do a lot of getting to know most of the players. They had that one dude, I think Rodrigo or whatever, who they kind of followed around, but there's a very little emphasis on the players this season and just so much time spent with the coaches. And I get that the coaches have personalities, but it's supposed to be a show about the players. You know, the coaches aren't getting cut.
Is it a show about the players, though?
It's supposed to be.
I thought it was a show about the team.
I think it's about the players.
I don't know. I can't think
I guess you can't have one without the other.
Yeah, but I can't think of a season. I guess the recent Cowboys season really kind of focused in on Dak and Zeke. Yeah. And I don't even know if that's pretty much the relationship between those guys. And speaking of Dak Shepard, you didn't have him on any of your teams, did you?
No.
What a
Dak
bust.
Shepard or Dak Prescott. I don't
did
have
I say
either
Dak Shepard?
You did say Dak Shepard.
Oh my God. I don't like either of them. So I'm just confusing people left and right.
Happens.
But he's still a bust. They're both busts. For as much media attention that Dak Shepard gets, he's a bust. And as much money as they paid Dak Prescott to blow out his pussy ankle and break his pussy thumb, ridiculous. I mean, who am I? I'm just some fat guy with a back problem that rides a bike. But, I mean, they're not paying me $25 million or whatever a season to break my pussy leg.
I think he's getting closer to 50.
Okay, well, still, he hasn't done anything.
Yeah, well, you don't have to do anything anymore to get a $50 million contract.
Where's my $50 million?
Quarterback.
I can throw a ball.
Quarterback.
I can throw a ball a quarter mile.
I don't think you could take many hits.
I could throw it over those mountains.
Although apparently neither can Dak Prescott. So what do I know?
True.
So
he is not bulletproof. That's for sure.
No. But yeah, past that, I mean, I spent a good chunk of the weekend when I was near a TV. I watched college football on Saturday and then the pros on Sunday. Yeah, Sunday. Thoroughly livid because I thought I had a halfway decent fantasy team. Not that anyone wants to hear about that, and they suck. So I probably won't talk about that very much past this episode. And managed to, I hate the fucking Giants because I am having to buy my way back into my survivor pool 1 week into the fucking season because they couldn't lose to the goddamn Titans.
I'm really just thoroughly, I don't know, I was going to say smoked. I'm not smoked currently, but I'm really TO'd about Saquon Barkley. I don't want to get too much into fantasy. We need to move on to today's topic because it's a great one. But I drafted Saquon Barkley last year, really late, and thinking, reading all this stuff, he's coming back, he's going to have a great year. He scored more points. I know this is exaggeration, but he scored more points this week in fantasy than he scored all last year.
I don't think it's that much of an exaggeration.
I know, it probably isn't. And I didn't get him. I kind of forgot he even existed because he just shit in my mouth and told me it was a Sunday all last year.
So speaking of shitting in the mouth, for me, our topic for the day is a great palate cleanser after the last one we talked about. If I'm being honest, this movie is the kind of movie that I was really looking forward to this getting around to when we even started this silly little podcast, because it's so just special in so many ways. It's those movies that they say that they're almost tragically bad that they become comedies. We're kind of right in that wheelhouse, I think, with this one. So if you haven't figured out by now, we're talking about the 1984 or maybe 1986, maybe even 1988. It kind of depends on where you read. Monster Dog, that stars Alice Cooper as the lead role, Vince Raven, because he couldn't be he's the only character that has a first and last name in this movie, but he's Vince Raven. Currently, this movie is actually ranked on IMDb. It is the 41,433rd most popular movie on IMDb, for whatever that's worth.
And it's dropped 8,600 spots. When does the ranking stop? When does it just, they don't even put a number on there?
We've had a couple that haven't had numbers on there, so I don't know where the drop-off point is, and I don't know what would be. Well, I guess we could go back to figure out which ones didn't have a rating, but
maybe it's 100,000 or something.
I would have thought 50 but who knows? Sean, why don't you go over the premise or the synopsis for this movie? You're better at reading than I am.
Reading is fundamental. Speaking is not. A rock star returns to his childhood home to shoot a music video while a pack of wild dogs are on the loose, killing off the local residents.
That's a quick way to get to it. So let me ask you, is this a werewolf movie? I'm not even 100% sure.
Yeah. Wow.
I mean, the word werewolf is used a couple times through the movie, but I was like, so are they werewolves? Are they just monster dogs? The dogs throughout the movie are like very timid looking that they actually use to chase them. It's got I've said this before, and it's one of my favorite things to see in horror movies is this has a very Scooby-Doo feel when the dogs are chasing them up and down the hallways in this movie, because the dogs, you find, if you feel the need to do research about this movie, which I don't know that I would recommend doing that, you find out that the dogs are actually seeing eye dogs that were trained to help people, and that's why they are so obedient in this movie. There's a bad side to that later as to when they actually have to attack people. But
is that true?
No, I'm not kidding. That's there. Apparently there is where they shot the majority of this movie across the way or the street or whatever the hell was there. You don't see it because it's not in the shot. There was a school for dogs where they teach seeing eye dogs, and that's where they got all the dogs for this movie. That's why you have like 3 German Shepherds, like whatever the big floofy dog is, and like a Schnauzer in the group.
Yeah, there's like a wiener dog.
Yeah,
it's like a Chihuahua. It's like
right,
and they all look like they've been beaten to shit with newspapers right before they said action.
Yeah, well, there is a scene where they actually attack a guy on the ground, and that's where the shitty part is they, to get the dogs to actually attack this guy, I guess they starved him for 2 days and then stuffed the guy's shirt with food. So that's how they actually convinced him to attack him. So I'm not really happy about that part. With the exception of that scene, I'm going to tell myself that the dogs weren't hurt in any other way, because otherwise I'll just be annoyed. The usage of the dogs in this movie, when they decide to have them show up and not, is more often than not more comical than, it's certainly not terrifying.
Yeah, not menacing at all. And to go back to your question about, is this a werewolf movie? I've kind of thought about it. I think this may be a werewolf movie because the sheer fact that at some point there is a transformation on screen. It's one of the saddest, like shittiest looking transformations I've seen in a long time, and I've seen a lot of them. But he kind of
looks like Schwarzenegger in Total Recall when
he falls with a mask, on Mars. It just looks. Oh my god! I can't think of what he looks like. There's some other horror thing when the person, being vague on purpose, the person transforms into that werewolf. Oh my god, I can't remember. It looks like a shitty, like, rubber mask, like that's just inflated.
Yeah.
Inflated with a bicycle pump rubber mask. It's bad.
And pretty much every effect in this movie is that. Like, this movie opens with like a 3.5 minute Alice Cooper music video. Not his worst song, but certainly not his best song.
Preceded by at least 10 seconds of just blackness on the screen.
Yeah. We're going to jump around a little bit because, well, in all fairness, this is one of those wonderful movies that it's batshit crazy in that it's all over the place, but it's also barely telling you a story to get you from point A to point B. I guess we'll come back to the ending because I don't want to spoil it quite yet. I don't even remember outside of the music video how they get started on this. They just, if I remember right, aren't they just kind of like driving around with Alice Cooper and his lady friend in like a creeper van?
Well, so they make this music video. What is the song? Do you know the song? Oh my, I can't remember.
It's called Identity Crisis.
Yeah, it's like, but it sounds like Identity Crises or something.
That's the song that's the music video is shot and used in the movie.
Yeah.
The video that they're going to shoot, I don't know if it's supposed to be the same song or if it's supposed to be something.
No, I think it's
different.
But so it starts with this music video. They finish it. It's like a straight music video. It's like an 86 to 88 to 84 music video, like really lo-fi, not a lot really going on. Very repetitive, the song. So the record label says it's not really doing anything for him. So they want him to go, Vince Raven, a.k.a. Alice Cooper, to go home, back to his actual home. Maybe it'll give him some inspiration to record his next video. So they're driving to California, quote unquote California, if you'd see my finger quotes here. California, driving back in this van with his videographer, who happens to be his girlfriend, and some other kind of crew people. One of the women is supposed to be like his love interest in the video. It's a friend of theirs. They're driving through the countryside of California, scenic California, and they approach, as night falls, they approach this mist, and they're doing random road checks along the road up to his parents or his family's house. Mm-hmm. And the sheriff then lets him know. Estate. Yeah. Welcome home, Vince.
Doesn't it say Vincent Raven on the actual house somewhere?
I think it says welcome Vincent.
Something like that. It's bizarre.
The sheriff then tells them that, oh, hey, be careful. There are these crazy dogs running around, and they've already killed, I want to say 3 people? 3 or 5.
Something like that.
There's some update. Like it was this one number.
Definitely an odd number.
Yeah. And then, they just added 2 more. The so-and-so, the Blankenchips, like down the road, just got mauled to death by a bunch of poodles, or whatever. And so he's like, oh, okay. And they take off to go up to the road. Sheriff gets overrun by the monster dog, I guess. And that's where Vince and company, they can't find the caretaker of the estate. They start seeing all this creepy stuff around the house, like a painting with someone who looks like Vince and a woman and a young boy. They start having the girl who's the model that's supposed to be in the video starts having this crazy dream that you're not quite sure.
You get your crazy Ralph proximity that comes in and basically screams you're doomed and kind of knows what's going on. But
they meet an old man. They're all going to die. You're all going to die. And it just kind of goes even nuttier from there.
Right.
There's just lots of stuff in this movie just don't make a whole lot of sense. Like the editing.
Oh, no.
All around is just like there's somebody in a frame and they're walking out of the frame, but they just disappear. There's like, they're driving in the heat? Why is there a carton of milk on the dashboard like the entire time?
Yes. Why is there a carton of milk on the dashboard?
Why is there?
The entire time? I noticed that too, and to the point where I was like, who drives around drinking a carton of milk?
Why does Alice Cooper, he can clearly grow a mustache and a goatee and some semblance of a beard. Why does he only have patches of like 6 hairs growing underneath each cheekbone, which I saw like repeatedly in this movie, and it just drove me nuts. Like, don't they have a razor, like a Bic or something, and just like even a lady's like leg razor and just knock that shit off?
And this might be accurate. I would imagine Alice Cooper between 1984 and 1988 or whenever the hell this movie took place or was filmed, probably had some habits that we don't need to know about, but he looks pretty scuzzy through this whole movie. Like, he might not be a teenage dirtbag. He's well past a teenage dirtbag, but he's definitely like middle-aged dirtbag in this movie, to say the least.
He's not a young-looking person. Like, he was probably born looking like an old man, but he looks like he could be the dad of everybody that he's with. The grandfather, even. I mean, he just looks that strung out or old or whatever. I have lots of questions. This entire movie, we can get into it, but we can get into the actual movie, but some of the questions I have. So, I'm a fine purveyor, or I'm not a fine purveyor, but I'm a purveyor of fine cinema such as this. I've seen lots of movies. I've seen lots of foreign movies, subbed, dubbed, lots of B movies. And I know that this is a common thing, but for the audience, if you go out and try to find this movie, understand that while Alice Cooper speaks English, and he speaks English that you would be able to understand, it's not like he's speaking out of the side of his mouth, or that he slurs, or that he's got an accent. He is dubbed. Everybody in this movie is straight dubbed. And I know that's a common thing.
Do you know the reason for that?
No, I couldn't find out why this was dubbed.
This is an Italian movie made by a Spanish director that could not speak English, so he wanted nothing to do with that. Yeah,
because it looks like different actors are speaking different languages at the same time. Like when they say things to each other, I knew that it was an Italian production. And even the director, it says his name is, I don't remember what it says in the movie, but that's not the director's name. That's like his American name.
Claudio Fragasso. So I don't. No, the only time you actually hear Alice Cooper's actual voice is the actual, not the in-movie music video, the actual music video that starts the film. That's the only time you hear his actual voice.
Right.
So, but yeah, the dubbing is quite humorous through this movie. It's not quite at the level of a Godzilla movie or something like that. Like, they're not that far off. In fact, if you're not aware of Alice Cooper's voice, you could still tell this is dubbed. But as far as like dub movies go, his character is almost dubbed well. The other characters, not so much.
Watching this movie, it feels like they almost put more care into the fake video at the beginning and the fake video that they're making than they did in the for the entire rest of the movie.
Oh, I'd be willing to bet that was intentional. He probably had something in whatever $50 contract they gave him to make this movie that, definitely not a Dak Prescott contract. That
this is like 50 Dak Prescott, whatever. It's
right.
Like passes. That's how much this movie costs, probably as much as one pass from Dak Prescott would cost, or Dak Shepard for that matter.
Yeah, I bet the pass is probably more expensive, but I wouldn't be surprised if somehow he had it in there. Like, I got to get at least 2 music videos out of this damn movie. There's questions, like lots of questions. So the movie, as we go along, we find out that there are townspeople that have come in and they've killed Vincent's, aka Alice. I don't even know if we should call him Alice Cooper in this due to this movie, just because he's. I think we should just call him Raven. Know. Okay, we'll call him Raven. We find out that his dad was murdered by the townspeople after he went crazy, and his father. It's not really said outright, but you come to kind of figure out that his father was a werewolf, right? And it got passed down along the family. Or a monster dog. Yeah, or a monster dog. I didn't realize that a power for werewolves is that they could control dogs. Like, dogs were at their beck and call. They could make them do whatever they wanted. I just got the impression that was this instance of werewolves and or monster dogs. I don't know that that's an actual werewolf power.
He's just, I don't know. It's like this movie ultimately comes down to, it's an ultimate fight between 2 werewolves. There are 2 werewolves they're fighting. Generational werewolves are fighting each other. And that sounds like it should be a lot cooler than this movie actually is.
I guess that depends how you define cool. Like, if you want cool to be high quality entertainment, then it's not that. If you want cool to be low quality, like Alice Cooper running around a field acting like he's a dog, it kind of has that.
Did you read about, or do you have anything about why this was made at all?
I did read that Alice Cooper had said that he wanted to be in the kind of movie that he watched. So a B-style horror movie, or something he would see on a Midnight Madness type thing on TV. But I didn't really read anything past that. Yeah,
basically that he wanted to make a trashy movie, and a trashy movie that nobody would see. And I think initially he probably got what he wanted, but I think over time now this movie kind of lives in infamy in one way or another, just at how terror-bad it is. I don't know if you would agree with it being terror-bad. I don't know if terror-bad's a good thing or a bad thing, actually. I just kind of said it.
No, neither. I mean, this movie's bad, but it has for me, it definitely hits that so bad that it's good type quality, because the things that are bad in it, you can kind of chuckle and laugh at most of them. Even the things where the caretaker or whatever interrupts the mid-movie Alice Cooper music video by basically being a dead body that leans against a window until the window decides to break or something along those lines.
My favorite part about that is that the dead body is participating in the music video for the entirety of the video until
that, and the other star of the music video is just kind of looking up at it and doesn't say anything, doesn't say there's a dead body up there, and he just rudely makes an entrance by breaking through some glass.
God damn that Joss. He always ruins everything.
So it's bad in that sense, but there's some stuff in this movie that I don't know if we've directly said it or not, but we've made mention of it before. And with movies like Chopping Mall, I'm pretty sure we talked about Night of the Creeps. We're both a fan of a good head explosion, and there's a pretty good head explosion in this movie when the town's local town drunks or local posse or whatever comes to fight Alice Cooper and his wolfen thing or whatever.
Yeah, it's like the anti-werewolf brigade comes to check them out.
Right.
Yeah. With it's like a sawed-off shotgun or something, isn't it? That the guy's top of his head gets blown off.
Yeah, and it's funny because it's one of those shots that it's like, this is very clearly not his head that's getting blown up. They just put some kind of packet of goo or whatever and just like found a way to catapult it from behind him.
No, it's
because his head is still very head shaped at the end of the headshot.
Well, but the actual action, the blowing up of the head is clearly a plaster cast. Like it's a paper mache head or something. But yeah, it looks like it's a lot lower on the actual effect. And then when they show him, he's kind of like the Dawn of the Dead guy that gets his head chopped off by the helicopter. You know, he's like, his head looks really tall.
Yeah. Speaking of Dawn of the Dead, I thought a lot, this posse that we're talking about almost looks like all the extras who couldn't get cast on the Dawn of the Dead movie. They just showed up to like, well, we couldn't fight any zombies, so let's go fight some werewolves.
Yeah.
Type thing. So that was moderately entertaining. Other little things I noted on that, they make when they finally get to Casa de Raven, or whatever we're calling it, there's a lot of product placement in this movie for a movie that didn't have much of a budget, I would assume, or certainly didn't have much of a reception. You see like every soda pop can that you can imagine throughout this movie and a handful of other things. But I was watching it and I'm like, I sure as hell didn't expect, like maybe they just didn't care and just went to the grocery store and grabbed a couple 12 packs of what I assume they came in 12 packs at that point, whatever, just grabbed a bunch of cans or whatever they could and kind of scatter them all over Casa de Raven. But it's noticeable because the only thing that has color in this, like vibrant colors in this movie, is anything that's a product that's placed in the shot.
Yeah, it almost feels like they went, like you said, went to the store, bought all the Pepsi, all the Tab or whatever it is, put it on the set, filmed the movie, and was like, man, I really hope we get some of that residual money from, maybe they'll see this movie and they'll think that they'll pay us for some of this product placement. It was really out of place, but it was yeah, definitely noticeable, especially when they're trying to get their little Joss handmade, I don't know, cheese sandwiches or whatever. Oh, there's that was the other thing I was going to say. I've never had a cheese sandwich before.
Yeah. And those sandwiches were about as limp-wristed looking as I've ever seen in my life. Like there's like you should have spent the money on the Oscar Mayer product placement, because there's like half a slice of ham and like half a slice of cheese and just 4 pieces of like Wonder Bread slapping this shit together. It is not an attractive looking sandwich at all.
They're all nice and triangle shaped.
Yeah.
We even cut the crust off for you, little Vinny. Enjoy your stay.
Yeah. That's the other thing I thought was weird with it too. Did you notice that? Because they cut back to the Alice Cooper or Vince Raven's dad, whoever the fuck it's supposed to be in this painting. They cut back to it several times. I was like, why does Alice Cooper look like he's dressed up like Leatherface?
He looks weird. I mean, he looks like when they get him all dressed up for the outfit that he's pretty much going to wear for the rest of the movie, for the music video with the big wide shoulders. And his hair's all crazy. Looks like
his hair looks like Alice Cooper.
Well, yeah, but he just looks like I don't know, like a off-brand Edward Scissorhands or something. He's just really, he just looks, I don't know, like that must have been Tim Burton saw some monster dog and was like, that's the next character of my movie right there. Just put some scissors on his hands.
Monster dog, but with scissors for hands.
There you go.
Monster scissor hands.
Monster scissor dog.
Yep, see?
That would be a good one.
I don't know how this didn't get made. I'd watch that.
We should be pitchmen. I'm telling you.
I was referring to the actual painting, though, because they zoom in on it several times, and every time I'm like, it looks like Alice Cooper in this painting is wearing someone else's face on his face. Maybe he's not, maybe.
But enough for you to recognize that it's Alice Cooper.
Well,
it's like when somebody gets a face transplant, their face, regardless of what the face looks like that they took off, it starts to form to look like the person's original face.
I kind of wonder if that's my dad was an Alice Cooper fanatic when I was growing up. And
when you were groping up?
Yeah. So, do you remember when Alice Cooper used to play the State Fair every year?
Mm-hmm.
I saw Alice Cooper basically every year from the time I was like 5 until the time they stopped doing the State Fair, whenever that was.
Did they do the guillotine trick on stage every year?
They did some years, not every year. But he did have the big Frankenstein that would walk around and stomp on shit. I don't think I ever heard him play Identity Crisis. I'm going to go as far as to say that. I don't have that good a memory of those shows because I was a dumb kid and mostly just like, this is boring. I don't like Alice Cooper. I think that's why, to me, it's like, well, he looks like Alice Cooper because his image is fucking burned in my brain. Another note that I wrote down, and I'm not quite sure what scene I'm referring to in this note, but it might be multiple scenes. Alice Cooper runs like a fucking goober in this movie.
I didn't really notice.
No?
Mm-mm.
Maybe it's because he's always wearing high-heeled boots and they have him running through hills and stuff like that. It might have been the scene where he's chasing the dude before he blows his head up, but I made a point of writing down, quote, Alice Cooper runs like a fucking goober.
We need to publish your show notes so we can make sure that this is an actual note from you.
I mean, it's quotable. So the other thing I really liked in this, so as with any movie, you go through the motions and the threat looms and gets larger and larger. We're at the point where there might or might not be an actual monster dog. And so we've killed all the posse of werewolf hunters or whatever they're supposed to be. And then Alice Cooper or Vince Raven, like how we've basically done that with every time we've said his name.
I don't know what we're going to call him. Let's just call him Vinny Raven, Alice Cooper. Raven.
So
Roberts.
Vinny Paul Raven and two of the ladies that were there, his prime, like, what's her, I don't even know her name, but it doesn't matter. The lead chick and like the other girl that was supposed to be in the music video, they all run off to the car. They're gonna hightail it and get out of there. Or they run out to the van. They're gonna hightail it, get out of there, and get out of Dodge because monster dogs are real, apparently. So they get there and they realize that they don't have the keys. They left the keys somewhere in Raven Estates. So the two and
it's just one of my favorite parts is that they didn't bring the keys. They know where the keys are. They're on one of the dudes because it's their car. But that's like on the second floor of this building or the roof of the building or whatever, and they have to go through all the chihuahuas to get it back.
Well, it's like a video game scene where it's like, oh, you don't have the key for this, so you have to go through the whole damn level again in reverse or whatever. Mm-hmm. But the thing that I really like about that is the two of them are going to... So there's three people in the car. There's the one girl in the back and the Vinnie Paul Raven and other chick in the front. They decide they're going to go get the keys, and the girl in the back asks if it's okay, if she'll be safe in the car. And he's, in quoting here, he says, "You'll be safe enough locked in here."
I mean, dogs don't open car doors very often.
Wasn't the dog already in the car? She dies immediately
thanks
after
for
that.
spoiling it. Jesus. I'm trying to tell a story here.
The line, "You'll be safe enough." Perfect. Just, this goes right up there with our favorite lines like, "You mean the movie lied," and "It's called tact, fuckwad."
Yeah.
This is in the upper echelon of lines that we've talked about in this, the run of this show. You'll be safe enough.
Yeah, you'll be safe enough.
Yeah. You're just the video girl anyway, who we can get another one of you.
Well, she's the sound, or she's the makeup artist. That's what she does.
Is she we can get another one of those. Too.
Yeah.
Alice Cooper can do his own makeup. So
yeah, he did it. He did the eyeliner just over the one eye or the eyebrow.
Do you have any other points that you feel like we need to? I mean, this movie is, like I said, this movie is kind of batshit crazy. It is very much so. Like, it's not the kind of movie where there's breadcrumbs and you're just kind of following a trail. It's like the story was kind of stuffed into a buckshot and they just went and shot a wall and said, connect the dots however you want. And we'll see you at the end with some sort of maybe werewolf, maybe monster dog. Choose your own adventure.
I do think that it does have it's not a good one. It's not revolutionary. It's not mind blowing, but it has a twist. There is a little bit of a twist because this old man keeps showing up. He shows up at the beginning to warn them that they're all already dead. He shows up some other time. He shows up in the dream, and then he shows up at the end.
20 times.
Yeah, he shows up a bunch.
He's like Crazy Ralph, but just won't go away when they tell him to go away.
He's extra Crazy Ralph.
Yeah,
and I don't want to give it away. So if you're gonna watch Monster Dog, you'll just have to find out. But this guy is of some significance. And there's a twist. It's like, this is M. Night Shyamalan twist territory. It's so deep. You go through the whole movie and they give you the twist and you're like, oh, all right.
Yeah.
That's cool, I guess.
Yeah. So we already kind of touched on the transformation scene in this. Do we have much we want to add to that?
No, I just thought it looked like absolutely ridiculous and possibly up there, top 5 worst werewolf transformations of all time.
I mean, it's still better than the Benicio del Toro one.
I still have to see that. I don't know if I believe you.
Maybe
all.
You do, but
I don't know if I believe you. I'm not gonna trust that. I've seen some pretty bad ones.
I mean,
so that one has to be real bad.
I did not enjoy that movie at all, and I enjoyed this movie to some extent. So
are we ready to give our hot dogs?
I don't have a whole ton to add to it at this point. Like I said, this movie, I mean, unless you want to add something before we get into it, I'm ready to break out the hot dogs.
Let's get the buns. But my question is, we haven't had a movie quite like this, where Chopping Mall's a B movie, but I think I rated it on a regular scale. Like I didn't weight it for, I might weight some bad movies for like a bad movie scale and say, oh, for a bad movie, this is X. Are we going to make this bad movie scale so our listeners know that when we're giving these bad movie hot dogs, that this is like on the so bad it's good kind of entertainment value thing, or are we going to rank it on our regular scale?
Hadn't put any thought into that. I know. I'm so distracted by Vincenzo Raven.
Vinny Blackbird.
I think Vinny Blackbird. I think when I think of like a rating scale, I really just look at like that number being a sliding scale of how much I enjoyed the movie. Okay. So I don't really feel the need to, just a regular scale. Because at the end of the day, ratings are kind of subjective anyways. So to me, it's just, obviously there's a difference between this and like, I don't know, The Godfather or something like that. This is clearly better.
Citizen Kane 9, Monster Dog 10. You heard it here first.
I mean, I do like this more than Citizen Kane. I'll give it, but I don't know if I would give either of them a 9. But no, I don't think we need a separate scale, because to me, the scale should just be about overall enjoyment, not necessarily it's bad, but it's good because it's bad. Well, it is that. So anyway, for me, I'd probably give this like 5.5 monster hot dogs out of 4.5 regular hot dogs, something like that. Again, this movie is not a good movie. Like, it's not something that you're gonna leave and be overly thinking it, like overly breaking down the minor plot points or the major twists that you're not going to give a shit. By the time you get to that plot twist, you're like, yeah, okay, whatever, moving on. Let's see what's next in this shit show. Oh, I forgot to say, I love how this movie pads out the runtime to make it a movie length by replaying the video from the start of the movie again at the end of the movie, except they clip the characters that we've seen die throughout the course of the movie, plus Vincent Raven, into the original music video. So you essentially have this movie bookend by the same mediocre Vincent Raven Alice Cooper song at either end, which, spoiler, you get to enjoy it twice because once wasn't good enough. Anyway, this movie, it is bad, but I find myself being entertained by this movie because of the level of bad that it's in. It's not something to take seriously. I don't know that if the movie takes itself seriously, it's pretty funny about it, but I don't think it does. If you like B movies or not good movies that are kind of funny because they're not good, this is your wheelhouse. If you want something to take seriously and you want to be like, oh, plot is important and I need a good acting performance, it's probably not the movie for you. But for me, it's, for what it is, I had fun. So I can't really complain about that. And that, at the end of the day, that's what matters to me.
Can I ask you to clarify? So did you give it 5.5 out of 4.5?
Yeah, because it's a monster dog.
Okay.
They're big. They're bigger hot dogs.
They're big dogs. Yeah. So I'm going to give this movie, I'm going to give it 4 mustard covered greasy bun hot dogs out of 11 Alice Cooper cheek hairs. I've seen, not to brag, but I've seen a lot of real shit movies, like really bad ones. And I didn't feel captured enough of the it's so bad it's good. It was just kind of bad. Like it was a terrible kind of bad. Like it's a lot more it's just bad vibes for me. I just didn't really, I just got really bored with it. Like there wasn't enough happening that really kept my attention Like the posse was kind of funny. Those guys showed up and they shot the wrong person with the silver bullet, and then they're just kind of fucked. Like they didn't have any other
I forgot about
strategy.
That.
Yeah, they just shot the wrong lady, and they're like, "Oh, that sucks."
And she somehow survived being shot with that because she wandered around for a while, and then they stuck her in the car.
Well, yeah, she got shot in the. No, she did. She got shot in the stomach. Did she go in the van?
Yeah. I thought she was the one in the van. See, again, this speaks to the quality of this movie. That anyway, yeah, they shot the wrong person, and that was pretty entertaining.
She doesn't make it. She does survive a little bit, but she doesn't make it.
Right.
And the main woman to me, Victoria Vera, plays Sandra. She looks like, I kept thinking to myself, she looks like a human 1980s like anime character. Like she looks like she should be in Robotech or something. She has that look to her. Just her face looks like somebody from Robotech. But anyways, I digress. 4 out of 11. It has some, it's bad, so bad it's good vibes, but I feel like it just has a lot more. It's just bad. I think that if you're looking for a B movie in this kind of genre, there are so many B horror movies that are so much better than this movie. The effects are kind of crummy. The editing is just like, I don't know. It just seems like they didn't really care. Like I said, people just disappear mid-frame from walking out of the frame, and then they're just gone. And I don't know. I just feel for Joss.
You're making good points.
Yeah, I feel for Joss. You know, he was leaned up against that window for acting for half the movie or half the video. Sorry, and then he just falls to his death. And people die. Like you think that these people should all be friends, and just nobody. They're just so nonchalant about people dying or getting mauled to death by a dog or whatever. And like I said, with the elements of these dogs looking like they've been beaten with newspapers seconds before action was yelled, and the fact that you told me that they were basically starved for days. ASPCA was not here to supervise the filming of this movie. It just kind of it helps reinforce the 4 out of 11 for me.
Well, and I mean, I'm clearly a fan of dogs, so I can't approve of any type of badness towards dogs. But from what I had read, the only time they were mistreated was the starvation 2-day period.
I don't even like dogs, and that's bad.
Oh, my dogs are going to be pissed at you next time you come by now.
I won't tell them. Don't say anything to them.
They hear every episode. So.
Oh, shit.
What do you think they do when I'm at work? They sit there with their dog AirPods in. And,
yeah. Well, yeah. I'm editing that out. They'll never hear this again.
Oh, well, that's fair. So anyway, yeah, this movie, I'm not going to tell you to go watch this and do whatever the hell you want. It's a movie. It's a movie about monster dogs. It's a period. I don't know. It's a horror musical according to IMDb. Oof. So take that for what it's worth.
I have a beef.
You have a beef?
I do. This poster for this movie has the monster dog that looks like total shit. And that's the monster dog itself is the saddest, like most ridiculous, laughable thing. Monster you've ever seen.
See him in the movie.
Yeah,
like he's in like screen time's 30 seconds broken throughout the movie.
He looks like Afterbirth of Tarman or something with like some pointy ears put on him.
Yeah.
But on this poster, they show this classic car and a woman holding some mauled person with this car looks really cool. It's not even in the movie. They have the shittiest cars.
Yeah.
And they don't even call it. They call the van a camper, and they don't call anything, but they have some old like station wagon, beat up station wagon that the townspeople are cruising around in. I feel gypped. I feel like I should have seen this awesome classic car in this movie.
I just found either I can't read whatever language this is, but it's either, I'm assuming Japanese or maybe Chinese. It's an Asian language. The poster for this is kind of more interesting. It looks like they just beat the shit out of Alice Cooper and put some like calligraphy in front of him. So,
oh, is this the one with the blood on his hands and he's like his hands are in front of his face? Yeah, he almost looks like a wolf man. Yeah,
he looks very bald for some reason. So,
yeah, that's a much better poster.
I mean, it's slightly more accurate to what's in this movie, I guess. So, anyway, Again, we digress. This episode, much like this movie, is kind of all over the place. So do whatever you want. Maybe watch this movie. Maybe don't. Maybe go watch a different one. Whatever. Or just go watch a better movie. It's football season. Go watch that. In between all that shit, whatever you decide you want to watch, you should listen to this show, subscribe, download, like, share, all that good stuff. Follow us on the social medias, Dewey Pod Monster, all over the place. Sean, what do you got going on?
Nothing. You can find me at youtube.drafttherapy.com. I'll take you to my Michigan beer reviews where I got nothing going on. Absolutely nothing. I live for Monster Dog and I die for Monster Dog. You can also find out more about the Dewey Pod Monster at crap.town, which is our website.
That's true. I forgot that. Crap.town.
That's why I added it.
Well, I appreciate. That's why you're the host of the Dewey Pod Monster podcast.
I got to say, you did a total heel turn on this movie. You gave 5.5 out of 4.5, which is like the best score you could give anything. I mean, within my math is infallible. And then you said, "Don't watch this movie." This is a movie. It's the best. It's great. And don't watch it. It's only for me. I'm saving it all for me.
I do like to hoard the Monster Dog out of myself. I have 47 copies of this movie on different formats: Blu-ray, Laserdisc, Betamax.
I was going to say if they release this on Blu-ray, I'd be surprised, but actually I wouldn't be surprised.
It is released on Blu-ray.
Yeah.
This did like get a Blu-ray release. Yeah. Well, what's funny is I haven't seen a DVD release of it, but I have seen Blu-ray releases of it. So, and they're kind of unnecessarily expensive. Like, I'm not paying $47 for a Blu-ray copy of this. Well, that's sold to me for $1.50. That's what I paid for the Rob Zombie version of Halloween. I'll put it in that category.
Just got to keep stocking it on eBay. Maybe you'll be able to snipe it.
That's what I do. That's what I do. So anyway, we'll be back next week. We'll talk about a movie probably with 100% less Monster Dog, but never know. Maybe we'll find a movie that does have Monster Dog. So like Halloween, the Monster Dog Revenge of Michael Myers or something. I don't know.
Monster Dog 2. Stay tuned for Monster Dog 2.
That too. Cheers, guys.
See you.
I think Monster Dog's going to start barking here because my neighbor's dog is barking.
Your neighbor's monster dog is barking?
Yeah. Oh, we'll deal with that when we have to deal with that. So,
my favorite Misfits song. We'll call him Raven. So, isn't that what that song's called? On Static Age? Oh, it's Come Back. It's not called Raven. Jeez.
You were way off.
Yeah, well, he says, doesn't he call the chick a raven in the song? Whatever. Let's keep going. So
we digress.
Yeah. We'll edit that out. So